Happy Valentine's Day, everybody, and welcome to another Top 5 board gaming video. Naturally, to celebrate today, I'm going to be talking about my personal favorite games that are all about love and romance. Honestly, these are games that are kind of hard to find if you're just looking for games about love and romance and all this kind of thing, because most games, it's like, okay, you're married now, you have a spouse, you have kids, stuff like that. And I wanted to find games that really dive a little bit deeper into the idea of courtship and really finding your life and tracking it down and making it worthwhile and doing all of this kind of stuff. And the fact is that it can be really tough to find games like that because they're just not made very much. But I managed to do it. I managed to find some that I personally really enjoy. And of course, as always, I would love to hear what you guys have to say about it. What are your favorite games that are about love and romance? Is it something that you really don't care about? I mean, we all know that Valentine's Day is a greeting card holiday, but at the same time, it is something that we can use to celebrate. And so, of course, I would love to hear everything you guys have to say. Put it all in the comments below. But with that, we are going to get started with my number 5. At number 5, I've got Love Letter. This is a game that's on this list mostly because it has love in the name, and on top of that, it's very easy to get your hands on. That said, if you look into the story of the game, the idea is that you're playing as a suitor for the princess because the queen has been arrested, and so now the princess is heartbroken, and you have to go in and try to cheer her up, and you have to court her, and that's the idea. That said, it's done in a very abstract way. It's still a fun game for anybody who's not aware. The idea is that you've got numbered cards that have specific abilities, with the idea being that you're trying to end up with the princess card, and that means that you win the game. So it's kind of an interesting story, but done in an exceedingly abstract way, which is why it's so low on the list. Still a fun game. Love Letter, my number 5. At number 4, I've got And Then They Held Hands. This is an interesting little game where the idea is that you have 2 players only, and it's a co-op game where the idea is you're trying to get your pawns to meet in the middle of the board at the same time, or at least within one turn of one another. The fundamental idea is that you can move the other person, you can move yourself, you have to move in specific ways, and the idea is that your characters are getting to know each other as they're moving around the board, with the eventual goal being that they both meet in the middle, and then they held hands. And that's the whole point. And it's kind of an adorable little game that really focuses on the romanticism of things, but at the same time, it can be kind of clunky mechanically, so that's why it's so much lower on the list. But thematically, it's really spot on. And Then They Held Hands, my number 4. At number 3, I've got The Pursuit of Happiness. Essentially, this is a much more advanced version of the game of life. It's a worker placement game where the idea is that you're going off, you're getting a career, you get your salary, you're trying to interact with potential suitors, significant others, so that you can eventually court one of them, get married, start a family, and essentially build up your life. With the idea fundamentally being that happiness is not necessarily in material wealth, but in the friends that you make along the way and the family that you leave behind and all of this kind of stuff, which is all counted towards your end game score. Again, being sort of the culmination of what is a good life and what does it mean and how does it help. The worker placement aspect actually works reasonably well for this. I personally enjoyed it. I've only played it one time, but I've read a decent amount about it, and it seems to be fairly well received, but at the same time, it's only middle of the list because it is about the entirety of life, not specifically about relationships, but it does handle the relationship aspect fairly well. And so The Pursuit of Happiness is my number 3. At number 2, I've got The Ravens of Sahaj. Now, I am probably mispronouncing that, I do apologize, but it's a very interesting cooperative game that's only for 2 people again, and the idea is that you have one player playing as a girl who has lost her memory, and the other player is playing as a detective who is trying to help her fix it. It's somewhat reminiscent of Mysterium in that the idea is you're playing cards that sort of indicate, here's what I'm thinking about, here's the image that I have in my head, help me interpret it. That's sort of the idea that you've got going on, but the fundamental idea is that you do not have verbal communication. And so when it comes to love and romance and that sort of idea is that you're looking for those more subtle hints of where are you going with this? What are you trying to tell me? What are you doing? And so you can communicate with the other person on a deeper level. Now, obviously, it doesn't have to fundamentally be romantic, but it does have a somewhat inherent romantic theme or overarching idea to it. It's a really intriguing, very fun little game. The Ravens of Sahaj is my number 2. At number 1, I've got Fog of Love. By far, in my personal experience, this game has done the best job at demonstrating how a essentially relationship builds up and evolves over the course of time, with the idea being that throughout the game you're going to be finding and interacting with specific traits that your partner has or your potential partners have, so that the idea is that you have to deal with them if they're being a little bit brash or dramatic, or maybe you're overly sensitive and things of that nature. You know, the things that you actually see in social situations, not to mention a relationship with a significant other. It's done in an absolutely incredible way, and it integrates wonderfully into classical board game mechanics. So it's very well done, it's a lot of fun, and surprisingly accurate psychologically, which I was genuinely surprised by. Fog of Love is my number 1. Well, everybody, that's going to be it for me. I hope that you enjoyed this video on my top 5 favorite board games about love and romance and courtship and that sort of thing. Now, again, this is a very difficult topic to find games for because, frankly, there's not a lot of them. The fact is that courtship and romance is something that is very, very difficult to show abstractly, and there's not a lot of games that do it really well. I personally find that my picks do it in a reasonably well done way, but still capture sort of the essence of what it's like to undergo courtship, at least by and large. And of course, at the same time, I would love to hear what you guys have to say about it. Is this something that you're interested in when it comes to a board game thing? Is it something that you guys don't really care about? Is it something that you find to be wasted? Just let me know anything and everything in the comments below, because you know that I love to hear everything from you guys. But that said, as always, if you haven't done so already, please take a look at all my various social media pages, as well as my Patreon page, where you can interact with myself and my channel in a whole bunch of really cool ways. That said, once again, thank you so very much for watching. I hope that you enjoyed the video. Happy Valentine's Day once again, and I will see you next time.